Hi everyone. I'm going through some things right now that I can't talk about because I'm still going through them. But as soon as I come out the other side, I will give you, well, you will see the results of what God has done in my life. Okay, so what can I speak about, Father? So the last video I did, I talked about the lion spirit. And here is how the lion spirit has manifested over the last few days. So there's a situation that occurred at work. Something that is making me look really, really bad. It's painting me in a light that is not of God. And, okay, so I'm going to go back. When was it? Was it the dove? Okay, so towards the end of last year, questions started popping up in my husband's head. Because before, the woman that he had in his life before said that she would be there through the thick and thin. She would be there through the hardships. She would be there through the hard times, that he would never have to face these alone. And here he is alone. And so he's asking God, is she going to be there for me through the hard times? And I responded to him. So I have been talking to him via text. He hasn't been responding to me because God hadn't allowed him to. This is a test of my heart as much as it is his. As much as it is a test of my obedience, it is also a test of his obedience. Remember, if he's going to lead me, he has to be a man of God. In order for him to be a man of God, he must first listen to God. Not his heart, not his mind, not his flesh. None of that matters. God is the only one that matters. And so, I also mentioned that there was a presentation that was done in a dream. And God told me, no, I presented you to your husband and he agreed, which is why I sent you away. I'm like, wait, what? With this additional revelation that came afterwards. And I have been fasting since this situation started. So God had me start fasting on 11/28, November 28, because this is when he began opening my husband's eyes to the lies that he was being told. There was a man that he is friends with that is counseling him against being with me. He's bringing into his view that I am a promiscuous woman, that I am a liar, that I am a cheater, that I am this, that I am that, because of the behavior that he sees in his eyes as being not a virtuous woman. This spirit has been getting bolder. The lying spirit has been getting bolder. So it put different lies in people around me. And God began showing me, this person is lying on you, this person is lying on you, this person. And each time that these individuals have lied, God has brought the truth to light. And so here I am on 11/23, November 23rd of 24. God showed me that I was coming full circle. And I did mention this in the videos that I recorded. that I was coming full circle, full circle, full circle. And then God showed me that this was the 11th hour. And so he brought me back to all of these things. And in these reminders, God is saying, remember what happened during these months when you did this, when you did that. I was like, oh yeah, I opened myself up to Lucifer doing his deeds. And I ended up having struggles and problems. Nothing that couldn't be reversed by God. But he's like, why are you putting yourself in these situations when I'm telling you to walk this way? This is where you have to start really honing in on his voice. And don't look left, don't look right. Just keep looking straight ahead. And whatever comes up, wait until he gives you the green light to go ahead. Yeah, like I said, I'm not perfect. I'm far from perfect. But I do as God tells me most of the time. And it does take me sometimes a minute or two to get it right. But it's okay because we have God's grace. And he knows we're not going to be perfect. So December marked a change in my husband and a change in me. We got closer. He began opening up about his personal life. He began telling me things. So instead of texting me things, he would tell me these things in person. I was telling him about my personal things over the phone. I was texting him all these comments, all these things, what my life was like, what I was feeling for him. And then, and in the beginning of December, I began to see the restoration start to take shape. I began to get closer to my husband. I began to be more intimate with him in terms of our connection, in terms of the discussions that we were having. It was no more me pretending that I didn't have feelings for him. And again, a woman told me, and I told him this, that she could see that I was in love, that I was in love with him. When she said that, it made me realize if she can see it, others can see it as well. So our boss is the man that has been his counselor, has been his guide, has been his advisor, has been the one that has been in the thick of things and sees him and understands, what he's been through. So he's the one providing the guidance. He's the one providing all these things, telling him, get away from her, don't talk to her, tell her this, tell her that. And God did something. So I have been going to this restaurant, Japanese restaurant, where I get sushi. I brought him in sushi one day, and he loved it. And I went again because God gave me a surplus of money, and he goes, okay, now let's go eat. And I was like, okay. And I was inviting him to come out because he was supposed to be off around the time that I got to the restaurant. But it turned out he ended up staying until 9 o'clock at night. Because again, the man that he trusted, the man that he believed was his friend, was guiding him away from being with me and telling me she's going to hurt your heart. She's going to hurt you. She's going to break your heart. She's an older woman because I am older than him. I'm 5 years older than him. She has methods. She has, things that she can do to you that it's going to tear your life apart. I'm just trying to protect you. I'm trying to give you guidance. Mind you, all the time that he's been helping him, this man has also been talking to me, trying to get me to see him the way I see my husband. And this is our boss. And he would come up to me and he's like, oh, hey, like, look at me. Like, I'm a better man. I have a title. I have money. I have cars. I have this. I have that. And I'm like, but you're not a man of God. I'm waiting for the man of God. I'm looking for the man of God because that is what God has me waiting for. And you are not a man of God. You are taking it out upon yourself to try and make me fall for you. You're trying to seduce me. You're trying to tempt me. You're trying to do all the things the world does to keep someone from being a child of God. And I said, you don't want to submit to God. You don't want to let God lead you so that you can lead me in a righteous way. My husband has already submitted to God. And so, on December 14th, I sent my husband a text telling him that I was in love with him. And not just in love with him for the good times, but in love with him for the bad times too. So all of this entering into the 8th year of my singleness, where new beginnings begin. And if you remember, I talked about a dream I had where I was in a room and outside was a demon that looked like a dinosaur, that looked like Godzilla. And he was banging around on the walls. He was hitting the windows and making all this noise. And I was just in this room on my knees praying. And all of a sudden, a light shone throughout the entire space. And I knew that that evil thing could not come inside. Now, this man has been making noise. I got written up. God showed me I was going to get a citation. I got written up. I was on the brink of getting fired. But God. And this man, these are the words he said. I was ready to fire you today because I was that angry at you for what you're doing. But I'm not going to fire you. But you need to stop. This behavior needs to stop. And I said, okay. And he said, this person was about to leave because of you. And I'm going to tell you right now, if I have to choose between them and you, I choose him. I was like, okay. I did not beg. I did not plead. I did not throw myself at the ground and say, please forgive me. You're not my God. He was trying to put the fear of God in me. He was trying to be the top. And I said no, because I know who my God is. And I will not surrender myself to any man who is not God. And you are not my God. And you are not going to scare me into submission. You are not going to scare me into staying anywhere near you. Now, this thing that was said, God is the one that started it. Because he wanted to show my husband who the people around him really are. Because it wasn't enough that I was explaining to him these things. God was letting me lay the groundwork so that when the time came for God to reveal the true feelings of these individuals, their true heart to my husband, he will look back and see that I was prophesying what was coming, that I was putting the footsteps in front of him that God was telling me to put in front of him. I was praying for him. I was fasting for him. I was covering him. I was in the gap. I was throwing myself in the mercy of God to open his eyes to get him saved. I did not leave his side. I did not leave him unprepared. I did not leave him uncovered. I prayed for him morning, noon, and night. I would pray for him before I went to work. I would pray for him while I was at work. I would pray for him when I was on my way home. I would pray for him when I got home. I would pray for him at 3 o'clock in the morning. I would pray for him at 4 o'clock in the morning. I would pray as often as God told me to pray. And since November, I have been fasting. I've been eating one meal a day. Because God says, you do a lot of work. You do the time it takes you to get to work on the bus, the time that it takes you to get home, the time it takes you to take care of the things here at home, you use a lot of energy. You use a lot of your cup is low the majority of the time because you're doing all these things that I'm asking you to do. So yesterday, I sat down in this chair to do studying. I woke up at 11:30 at night. And I was like, how did I fall asleep? Like, I was studying and I woke up at 11:30 at night. God supernaturally put me to sleep. And then I went to bed and I went to sleep again. I slept almost a full 24 hours. Because that is how tired I am. And God has been putting it in my head, in my heart, that I need to start taking care of myself. And I realized it's because I'm no longer at the bottom. I am now at the top. And a sister in Christ said it the best. She said, now your foundation is God. He is now your bottom. So you are now the top. So you now have to take care of yourself because God is allowing you to take care of yourself first. You are no longer to pour and pour and pour and pour and pour until there's nothing left. You have to replenish yourself so that He can continue to tap you and use you as He sees fit. And it has. Covering my husband has taken a toll on me because the amount of witchcraft, the amount of weapons that were being formed against him. He had no idea that these people were angry with him, that they don't like him, that they think that he is a useless man, that he should never have any of the blessings that God is giving him. One of them being a righteous, virtuous wife. They're like, why him? Why is he blessed? And so God had me tell him, don't listen to those negative voices. Don't listen to the people who say that you're not good enough. Don't listen to the words that the enemy is trying to make you believe. I said the reason that you are blessed is because you are God's son. And you are a chosen son. And that is the reason that you are blessed beyond anybody's understanding. That is why you deserve a virtuous woman as a wife. Because you are a chosen son of God. And God loves His children. And to His children will be the inheritance of the kingdom. So, since this situation began, on January 3rd, me and this crew chief, we talk a lot like this. And God has been leading me to talk to him like this because it's a way for him to have an open door. Open doors mean open minds, mean acceptance into God's kingdom. And that means that it's now God able to lead him towards him, because I'm showing him, just because you have these feelings, just because you have these thoughts, doesn't negate your ability to be with God. Because over time, God will change your thoughts. God will change your mind. God would change your mouth, your heart. It's not my job. My job is just to show you that doesn't negate you being a child of love, a child of God. Because God is love. And so The crew chief looks at me and he says, Diana, what would you do if I crucified you? Another employee named Mark responds, she would come back as the second coming of Christ. And I just looked at them both. And I just looked up. Because only God could put that in their mouths. I didn't say it. They said it. And it left me speechless. It left me in awe. And I was just like, what just happened? Since that day, since January 3rd, God has been showing me Genesis, starting with the creation of man. And when was the creation of man done? It was done on the 6th day. In that same day, that very, very long day, woman was created. On the 7th of January, I had brought in food for Ben, my husband. And he left it overnight for the manager to find, which is one of the reasons I'm in trouble. But now Ben sees that he's not truly a friend, but instead is trying to steal the blessings that God is giving him. Because I told him this. I said, Ben, this man sees the blessings that are coming. He can see the hand of God moving in our lives. He wants those blessings for himself. I said, he doesn't want me. He just wants the blessings. He wants to throw me away, discard me, and claim the blessings for himself. I know this behavior and I know this pattern because I've lived through it before. God will use everything that we've been through to help us see the things that are happening again. Okay, so on the 11th, a dove was in the restaurant and it flew at me. And I was like, what the heck? I ushered the dove out the door. Who's the dove? Who's our dove? How did God show us that Jesus was the dove? When John the Baptist dunked Jesus to be baptized in the river, when he came out of the water, a dove appeared over Jesus. And God said, this is my son, my only begotten son. And that's the scripture that came to mind when I saw the dove. And God said, this dove is for you, because I am now here for you. Just like I was there for my son in the river. I am now here for you. And I have been seeing his hand move in my life. These people know not what they've done, but they have incurred the wrath of God. And I pray God has mercy on their souls. So this isn't the first time God had me sleep in. On January 12th, I couldn't get out of bed. He wouldn't let me out of bed. This is now 2 Saturdays in a row that God has kept me in bed. And he's been giving me dream after dream after dream after dream after dream after dream after dream. And I'm just like, wow. I've never dreamt so much. On that day, I had a dream that my husband made a phone call to the store when I was working with Cody, the manager that I like. And Okay, so Cody was standing next to me, taking an order. And I was on the phone with my husband. And he was telling me all of the things that he's been meaning to tell me. And he actually told me how he felt about me. And he kept rambling on and on and on. And I'm trying to like cut in and tell him, hey, I'm not in a place where I can hear you. And it brought to mind Diane Inez when she was on a phone call, a FaceTime with her man, the man that God had for her. And she was near her sister, and she didn't feel comfortable listening to him because her sister was listening. And so she was trying to get to a private area where she could talk to him. And so he just kept saying everything and everything. But because I was so distracted about what was happening around me, I couldn't focus on what he was saying. And what God said is, when he comes to talk to me, it will be during a time where there will be distractions. And I will have to focus and not let the distractions get me out of sync. So, the next part of the dream, Cody was asking me to pinpoint on the map where exactly I lived. But I didn't show him. I just told him, oh, I live by the 202 and Country Club. But that's not where I live. That's the general area, but it's not where I live. And then the dream changed. And I was sitting in what I thought was a stroller. But the more I thought about it, the stroller looked more like a carriage. And my husband was pushing me towards the stage. And there was a woman standing there. And she was making a proclamation. Now, it's less about the woman and more about what she signified, because she was in all white. But I sensed she was a woman. And she was making a proclamation, an announcement. My husband pushed me to a stage, and then he stopped. And he put his hands around me, and he was massaging my sides, and I was like, that's kind of weird. But it felt good. And I looked up at him. And I looked into his eyes. And the crowd started cheering as he bent down to kiss me. And I was like, okay. And so the white woman was God. The reason that I didn't say exactly where I was at is because my location is moving. It's changing. And the stroller represented a small carriage. And then God provided me Elijah's prophecy, where Elijah prophesied to the king that his kingdom was going to fail and get destroyed. And it did, because God saw that iniquities of the people that lived there. Okay, so he brought me to Psalm 75, verse 8, where God pours out a cup of red wine for the wicked to drink. In 1 Kings chapter 8, verses 5 through 7, the covenant of the ark with God was done. So the new covenant with God, with my husband. John chapter 8, verses 5 through 7, an adulterous woman is forgiven by God. I have been forgiven by God because I idolized my ex-husband. I idolized the wrong thing. I don't idolize my husband anymore. I idolize my Father, my God, who gives me life, who brings me peace when I shouldn't be at peace. And then in 1 Kings chapter 8, verses 5 through 7, he also says that may the Lord our God be with us. So he also gave me the scripture, 1 Kings chapter 9, verses 2 through 5, advising me that I need to be ready for the second coming of God, for his second visit. Remember, when I first got divorced, and I prayed to God to take the wheel, to take over my life, that was the first coming, where he brought me all the way down. I was living in my car. I was homeless. I was jobless. I had no money. He literally was feeding me like he fed the birds. Fruits were falling from the trees that were too tall for me to reach. I had food. My dog had food. We survived based solely on what God was giving us. This Panera Bread was dropping off loaves of bread in a common area where I had access to. Excuse me, that I could eat from. And that bread lasted me 7 days. And I shared that bread with my dog. I was still homeless when I came here. Now I have a roof over my head. I have a bed that I sleep on. Is it luxurious? No. But it's here. And I can stay here as long as God has me here. So, one of the things that God has been teaching me is how to pray. How to pray over my husband, how to pray over our lives together, over our family, over the things that are godly. And this is why I made this prayer. Because as the daughter of God, I ask for his will to be done in my life according to his plan. Whereas my husband, as the son of God, can petition God for a specific